With Tim Hortons 2 hot breakfast sandwiches for $6 deal, you can mix and match your favorites. Mix and match between savory sausage or naturally hickory smoked bacon. Mix and match between an English muffin or flaky biscuit. Any two served with a freshly cracked egg and melted cheese. You can even mix and match how you share it. One for you, one for them. 2 for them, or 2 just for you. There's no wrong way to mix and match this tasty deal. 2 breakfast sandwiches for just $6. It's time for Tim's. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Single item at regular price. Modifications and tax extra. Additional terms apply.
Doing that, I was face to face with it. It was holding me by my throat, and it felt like it was sucking something out of me.
I probably should have been more scared than I was when I witnessed the exorcism.
I turned and looked on my right side. When I did, there's a beam on the side of the tree, a large beam. It's looking at me and I'm looking at it.
After I hit the lock button and looked back up, I saw red eyes staring back at me.
That they're going to show multiple gods all over the earth, be able to speak in people's languages, and at that point it kind of converge into this one entity, which will be revealed as extraterrestrial. You'll realize that aliens are the gods of old, and at that point it'll wipe religion out of the context of humanity.
No way, it couldn't have been a person, I know that. I know that people can't run through the woods like that.
So this thing comes into view, and I see it. It's 50 yards away from me. It's walking on 2 legs. It's huge. This is a big, hairy-looking being.
Welcome. I'm your host, and this is uNcomfortable. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Eric Szilagyi. To be honest with you, this has been a pretty rough week for yours truly. Back on Friday, I lost my mom. And although she'd been battling dementia for the past few years, thankfully, she did pass quietly in her sleep. To whatever extent she understood of me having this podcast, she was very much supportive. She was a wonderful woman and will be missed terribly. And then to follow that up just 2 days later by testing positive for COVID. So yeah, I am recording this while steeped in the wonderful symptoms of COVID. Thank you to all the well-wishers out there and those of you who have extended your condolences. I appreciate it more than you know. Also, thank you to all of you for making the Manscaped trial a success. Manscaped has committed to extending their support of uNcomfortable. So thank you. Thank you so much for your support. If you've got an uncomfortable experience you'd like to have featured on the show, please get a hold of me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, both at Uncomfortable Podcast 65. And most importantly, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you can. This only helps in getting us out in front of more people, and the more people listening means more great guests coming forward with their experiences to share with you, the listener. Now, let's get on to tonight's show. Tonight, from the lower reaches of the state of Indiana, right above the Kentucky state line, tonight's guest, Jacob, is going to talk us through some of the things that he has seen and been around, which would most likely point to being in the area of Bigfoot in southern Indiana. So if you would, please give a warm, uncomfortable welcome to Jacob. Jacob, welcome to Uncomfortable.
What's going on, Eric?
How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I guess I'll just start out when I did a lot of bow hunting and deer hunting in high school. I hunted this one little section of woods. My buddy's dad would let me hunt in his stand. Our parents would let us skip school and stuff. And I'd go hunt. And there was this old skidder trail where they logged it back in the early 80s when I was a little boy. Mm-hmm. And, I'd get there before the sun come up, about 5:30. And I'd mosey my way up that skidder trail, and it goes up a hill. It's pretty steep. And I'd hear this noise. It'd be on the ground, like right to my right. And I always thought they were coyotes, like doing contact calls to each other.
What's a contact call?
Well, I kind of just made that up in my head, I guess. But
okay.
just like how they're just communicating with each other or something, letting somebody know they're coming.
Okay.
And it was just a weird noise, and it'd be pretty loud, like it would only be maybe 10, 15 feet away. And it kind of went like and I did do some research to it. I did find that the barred owls do make a similar sound like that when they're courting each other. And I have heard it since then out at the lakes and stuff fishing, but this was something different for sure. But I would hear it to my right, and then I'd hear another one a good little distance up ahead of me on my left as I'm walking up through the woods.
Let me ask you, is the sound that you just made, is that about how loud that was, or?
No, it's really loud.
Really loud.
Yeah. Compared to the actual barred owls that I've experienced down by the lakes and down in the creeks we fish for bait at, I ran into them several times right at dusk. They'll start making their calls and stuff. And it's way louder.
Okay.
But there would be several of them all the way up through there. Probably, I don't know, I'd probably hear it 5 or 6 times, maybe a little more. I can't remember. It's been a long time ago. But they'd be, one on the right side, one on the left side, one on the right side, one on the left side, all the way up till I got up to the 4-wheeler trail to where I cut over to get in my buddy's dad's stand. And it was, I don't know, it was pretty unnerving, being a teenager. All I had was a bow. So I was a little freaked out by that. And I couldn't ever explain what was going on there. But anyway.
Did it sound natural, or did it sound forced?
No, it's just, I don't know. It's just it's so loud. It just never would think that it would be an owl.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. It was just really bizarre. I mean, just, give you goosebumps all over you. Cause I'd hunted several other places and never heard that before.
Well, I had an experience in the Huron Manistee forest, and I was on I believe it was a Labor Day kayak trip, and we heard 3 owls. Well, but they didn't sound like an owl. It was, right. 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It was not multiple sounds from each individual. It was just one long, almost like a car, it was, and, they kept saying it was an owl, but it didn't sound like it. It sounded like a person trying to do a poor imitation of an owl.
Right.
And we had 3 of them, and they kept going in the same pattern. One would be across the river, one would be way down behind us, and the other one was up further ahead of us. And it just kept going in the same cycle. Every time you'd hear it, it would be the one across the river, then the back one, then the front one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Yeah, it was unnerving. And there was a lot of weird shit happened that night, too.
Yeah.
Loud splashes in the water, in the river, like large rocks or large something being thrown into the water, big splooshes,
Yep.
you know, at 1:30 in the morning. Now, I mean, you know, fish jumping, getting bugs off the top of the water, possibly. But that river was pretty high and it was running pretty good. It was making a decent amount of noise. And these splooshes were considerably louder than just the ambient sound of the water running. I don't know. That was a weird night.
Yeah, that's something. But yeah, I always thought they were coyotes growing up. Never thought anything more of it until I've gotten a lot older here and experienced other things. But, you know, I was, you know, scared to death. All I had was a bow. And, you know, if you had a whole bunch of coyotes come run up on you, I mean, what are you going to do with a bow?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not really a common thing, I wouldn't think. But anyways, I got onto the tree stand, got up in it. You know, I was nervous wreck because I thought there was coyotes all around me. But, you know, nothing really, never heard it anymore after I got off the skidder trail and got up in the stand. And I just sat there in the dark, you know, and I could hear the school buses and everybody going to work, going by. The road wasn't too far back behind me, down over the holler there. And once that all kind of cleared up, you know, I'm still sitting there and stuff. And just really wasn't much going on out there. It's like, you know, there's usually squirrels and stuff everywhere. I mean, it wasn't like dead silent like a lot of people say, but from what I remember, there just wasn't nothing going on out there. There's usually turkeys out there in the cornfield out in front of the woods there. There was probably about, I don't know, probably 50 yards or so worth of woods straight in front of me. And then it just went into a cornfield, and there'd always be big gobblers out there gobbling and stuff. But there wasn't nothing going on. And, you know, after all the traffic and school buses stuff kind of calmed down, I've been sitting there for a while. It's like, man, I ain't never going to see a deer. Didn't understand. You know, there was deer everywhere up there usually. And down over, if you kept following the four-wheeler trail past the tree stand I was in, it kind of goes down in a ravine, and there's big briar bushes and stuff down there. And I'm just sitting there, just sitting still, just waiting for a deer, and just out of nowhere, just something goes, rah, 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 just, and I mean, you know, I about, you know, pissed myself. I just like didn't know what the hell that was. And
can you gauge like a distance? How far away was it from you?
Oh, it was probably within 30 or 40 yards or so. I mean, it was really close. I mean, it was really loud too. Really, really loud. And, you know, I was a teenager and I was just like froze. I'd never heard anything like that before. It was extremely bizarre.
Did it remind you of anything? I mean, what do you guys have as far as wildlife down in southern Indiana?
Well, we don't have monkeys. I know that.
So that's right where your mind went, was to
what it reminded me of was I can't think of what they're called, like howler monkeys. How you know they let out them long howls, but then they'll do the rah, 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 but I mean, it would have had to have been as big as a rhinoceros, as loud as it was.
Really?
But yeah, it was, and I never did see nothing, never got no movement. And I sat there for several hours after that, just scared to death. You know, I had an arrow in there, and I was ready to go. You know, something come out. Never did see nothing.
Where was your mind at during this? I mean, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking it could be?
Well, where my mind was at, I didn't tell you nothing about this, but I think the summer before, or before it got to earlier in the summer, before it got to hunting season, I had seen a big black cat. And I was with my mom driving down the road, and I couldn't get her attention to look at it for nothing. We just drove right on past it. But it was a huge cat.
Really?
Just jet black. Yeah. And it was actually just right back behind my property here. When I first started talking to you, when I was back here brush hogging, there's the big power lines run through there, and the big tall metal ones. And it was walking through the weeds through there with its tail up in the air, just like a house cat, just kind of flipping it back and forth. And he was just walking right on through there. And that's the first thing that come to my mind, which I know there ain't no cats out there that make noises like that, but that's the first thing that come to my mind.
Do you guys have any history of having cats down in that part of the state? I mean, I know, a lot of states have, the DNR won't recognize that, but, people they're seeing stuff, and, they're considered to be one-offs, or,
Yeah, we got bobcats. They're not very big. There's several people I've seen local that I went to school with and stuff that's got them on their trail cams, just small little bobcats.
Yeah.
And there's one guy over here, he had got a medium size, probably like a 40 or 50 pound, well, it may have been bigger than that. Hell, it wasn't real big. It was just a mountain lion, just the tan brown one on a trail cam. But, they're not around here.
But nothing like a jaguar or a panther or anything.
No, but there is, it's a rumor here. It's Pekin where I live. It's called the Pekin panther. There's been many of people seen it. My wife's grandmother has seen it. My neighbor next to me, he's seen one.
So when you're talking a large cat, you're talking a full size predator.
Very, very big. When I was on that other podcast, I told him it was like seeing a lion at the circus, but it was just black.
Yeah.
Like a full grown lion. Yeah. Wow. I took the kids to the circus once, and them big cats give me anxiety so bad I won't take them back. Because
of seeing that one?
I don't know, but maybe so, but yeah, they scare me to death. I can't sit in bleachers and have just a big giant cat sitting on a bench while some lady whips it with a whip thing trying to make it roar. Yeah, it's a little too much for me. But yeah, that's the first thing that come to my mind. I mean, now that I'm older, I really don't think that's what it was, but I mean, who's to say?
And that noise again, make the noise again.
It was like it started out like lower, and then it went up higher, but real guttural deep. Just went like, and I mean, I was frozen still, probably my eyes were probably big as golf balls.
you think, I mean, to me, my mind goes to something trying to express its unhappiness with something being in its area.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I was completely camoed out with the leafy suit. It wasn't a ghillie suit. It was just a leaf suit that I always wore from, head to, all you can see is my boots and like my eyes and my nose.
Yeah.
That's about all you're going to see of me. But that's why whenever I went back that day and I told my buddy's dad, I was, telling him that, and he said, well, there's a donkey up on the hill up there. I was like, man, that wasn't no donkey. Yeah, my wife's grandfather, he had mules and horses and stuff. And, yeah, been around them a long time. It wasn't a donkey.
Wow. So this was a piece of property that you grew up at, or is this the piece of property that you're still very close to?
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know, a mile down the road from my house where I live now. And it's just probably a mile and a half or so up from my mom and dad's.
So you've been around it since you were a young man.
Yeah. We rode 4-wheelers in there all the time, and we ginseng hunted in there, and we just did all kinds of stuff back here. When we had big mud holes back here. Yeah. But that's the only experience I ever had in them woods.
So throughout the years of being around that area, have you heard? I know you said you've heard other people talk about seeing the big cat, but were there ever any kind of rumors or anything floating around about hairy men or Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything?
Not when I was younger. No, I've talked to a few people nowadays, and there seems to be a lot bigger interest in it around here. But
I mean, how do you quantify that? What do you mean there's a much bigger interest around there? More people talking about it, or?
Yeah, usually kind of when, I kind of bring it up a little bit. Sometimes you can tell somebody's, maybe experienced something or they just believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
But, usually if they kind of go the other way, like, you're probably crazy, just drop it.
Yeah.
But that's about all that's happened there. And I never did think, Sasquatch or nothing back then. I just had no idea.
It always stayed with you though, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can still just hear that in my head. Like whenever I was telling you about it, I was like, I can hear it, but I can't make it sound the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty unnerving experience. And, and years went by and, I still hunted a lot. I hunted another place, down the road the other direction. And, you always hear like them big stick breaks and stuff like that when you're deer hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know, it would have to be a good sized stick. And, I never really thought nothing of it. Just be like, man, where's that deer? Where's he coming at? And then as I've gotten older too, it's just like, there ain't no way a deer is stepping on a stick that big, making that loud snap.
Right.
And then you don't ever hear nothing again, which I don't know. I don't really think I ever heard very many wood knocks when I was back here hunting. It was just always them snapping sticks. Well, which I mean, it could have been anything, but I don't know. Just kind of weird looking back on it. But then I, ended up getting out of hunting, for certain reasons, not because I was scared of being in the woods or nothing, but, I got more into fishing. And me and one of my good buddies, the first time something has happened, we used to fish a big lake on the other side of Salem. And, we fished on down by the dam a few times, and you'd hear stuff back on the hillside back behind you. You'd shine lights back there. There'd never be nothing back here. And I just always figured it was raccoons or possum or something. But you never did see them. And usually when there's some raccoons around, or, you'll get some eye shine or something. Or they'll scurry off real fast and make a bunch of noise and they're trying to get away. Mm-hmm. And no, never did see nothing. Always kind of felt creepy on that backside over there. But we stopped fishing over there because the weeds were bad. You get chiggers on you and stuff. So we go fish on the other side where the boat ramp was. It was all asphalt. And then you could go around the side of it, and it was like a rock wall where all the dirt had fell off. And then once it got up so high, it'd go back to dirt and it'd be nothing but woods on a big steep hillside. I mean, steeper than you'd want to try to climb up.
Yeah.
And we'd been out there fishing with my buddy and a couple of his boys. And we'd been out there for several hours, way into probably midnight hour, maybe after. And we caught, several channel cats out there, and, we was just having a good time, being loud. And, I'm always messing with the kids, picking on them and stuff, giving them a hard way to go. And just out of nowhere, just a biggest splash, probably about, probably 40 yards or 50 yards out in the lake. And it was just a big kadoosh. And we all just like, what the hell? And it scared me to death. And how about pushed one of the kids down trying to get around him? Yeah, I'm a good friend. But, it spooked me pretty good.
What was the lighting conditions at the time?
Just stars.
So it was completely dark out.
Yeah, it's pretty dark out there. We're pretty far away from the town and stuff, so you don't really get much ambient light from the skyline or anything.
Yeah.
It's and it's down in the hills down. It's big giant hills all around you and forests. So I mean, it's pretty black out there. But it was, as far as I can remember, it was a clear night with stars.
And what was your buddy's reaction to what you guys heard?
We were all just kind of jaw dropped, like kind of figure out what just happened. And, it had to be a pretty good sized rock, probably the size of like riprap or something like that you see around a culvert pipe, and, from being back behind us up on that hillside and to throw that out that far in the water, I just really don't think there's a man on this planet that could do that.
Yeah, that's strange, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you could hear something moving around up there, but I mean, it wasn't nothing substantially loud or anything. And we just ended up just packing up and getting out of there. And that's really that's what I was telling my buddy. I was like, dude, I'm pretty sure that was a Sasquatch. And I mean, there ain't no proof of it or nothing, but I mean, what the hell else is out there throwing big ass rocks in the to the lake, trying to scare fishermen. So, we just loaded up and we got out of there. We'd been there several hours.
What was his response when you offered up that explanation?
I don't really remember much, but on what his response was, but he's always been, pretty open-minded to stuff. And so, I mean, I don't really remember exactly.
But it wasn't I know you're full of shit.
No, not that I remember anyway. But I mean, that's what I felt like it was, and it was bizarre. Yeah. But then we can, I don't really think there's much more on the lighter end of it, of the stuff like that happening. My first real scary experience was actually, I think it was be going on 2 years now, maybe. But anyway, I had this guy that used to bug me all the time because I, catch some pretty big catfish down there at the Ohio River between Kentucky and Indiana. Mm-hmm. And I'd always post them on Facebook and stuff. I had worked with him for a short period of time at one of the sawmills up in Salem. And he started bugging me on there. Come on, man, I want to take me out there fishing. I want to catch one of them big cats. And I was like, I ain't real big on, just meeting random people and, show them my fishing spots and stuff. But
Right.
it had, he just bugged me to death. I was like, fine. It's like, fine. I was like, we'll meet up and let's go. And I think we had fished a couple of times before this, but I mean, that's pretty much how it went. I wasn't really a big fan of him. But we got down there that night, and the river had been flooded out prior, like a week before, and it's finally, the river was coming down, and it came down quite a bit, but it was still running pretty hard. And we had to go through, there's debris everywhere in the woods, and it was a pain in the ass getting back there. There's a lot of trees down and big driftwood and all that stuff. And when we finally got back here, we got our poles set up and bait out in the water. And we've been sitting there just hanging out talking. And I just happened to look to the southwest downriver, and there's 3 lights up in the sky. And I was like, told my buddy, I was like, look at that, man. What the hell's going on over there? And then the first one, they looked like they was kind of moving towards the north. And the first one went out. And the one behind it was coming up to its spot, and then another one appeared behind it. And it kept doing that several times. And I didn't know. I was like, dude, those are UFOs.
So one light was disappearing and another one would move up and take its place?
Yeah, and then the one in the back, one would just appear at the back, but there would only be 3 at a time.
Really?
Yeah, and it's, I looked up those satellite things that, Elon Musk has got out there and stuff, and that,
yeah,
it's not the same thing. It wasn't even close. They just look like stars, just bright white stars. They were probably about, from where we were looking at them, they were probably half the size of a pea. And I was like, just couldn't wrap my mind around it.
So when you're looking at them, are you looking at them at a great distance away, or are these lights appearing to be stars but much closer?
Well, they right. Yeah, they would have had to have been just a couple miles away at the farthest. But
I guess what I'm getting at is, did they look like they were much lower in the atmosphere, or did they appear to be way up in the sky?
Yeah. They was down low.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of airplane traffic that comes through there too, where they go and landing on the other side of Louisville. But yeah, they weren't up in the sky like they look like stars. They were down low in a straight line with each other. And that's what I was telling the guy there. And he's just like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, dude, those are UFOs. And he's like, because he's a rather religious feller. And he just didn't want to even acknowledge that was going on. And I continued to watch it there, and it finally had ended. And I don't know if it started before it ended or after it ended now at this point, but I started noticing pebbles hitting the water next to me, because I had two poles set up in pole holders in the dirt. My line's out in the river, and I kept noticing the splashes down there, and I was like, huh. I was like, that's pretty weird. I don't know why anybody would be throwing rocks. It's just not really a common thing for anybody to do.
Well, and did you recognize that you were in the presence of anybody else in the area?
No, there weren't anybody down there. It was a muddy mess down there. The trails were still trashed from the water going down. It's a park there, and no one had, they hadn't even started cleanup down there yet to make the trails passable. There's big logs and stuff over them, and as them rocks kept hitting the water there. And as I told him, I said, "Hey, dude, you see these rocks hitting the water over here?" And he's like, "Those are shad." He's like, "Yeah, I seen it a minute ago. Little bait fish that jump out of the water."
Yeah.
I said, "Dude, those ain't shad. I mean, I've been fishing the river a long time. I know what shad look like when they're jumping out of the water. They don't just make one little splash." And, it continued on. And it's like, and I mean, there weren't a whole bunch of them coming at the same time, just one here and there.
So what's behind you where you're sitting at? Is this a wooded area or open field? Or
yeah, it's all wooded area on kind of a slope, and it goes up to, there's a bunch of sand back there and pea gravel and pebbles and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it goes so far back, and then there's a flood wall. It's just made out of dirt, but they keep it brush hogged down, so it's just grass. It's a big dirt wall. There's a subdivision on the other side of it.
Oh, so you're relatively close to a populace.
Yeah, it's right there in Clarksville, Indiana. I mean, where we were sitting, you couldn't see Louisville from where we're sitting, but if you go on up around the corner, you can see the whole city and the bridges that go from Indiana into Kentucky.
Really?
Yeah. It's a great place to fish or just go hike around and, have a good time. But, and those rocks just kept hitting the water and stuff, and me and him kept talking, and I started noticing, like, it just sounded like sticks were crunching back behind us. And that's whenever I started feeling like, there's somebody back there. And so when I shine my spotlight back there several times, and I was just making sure there wasn't nobody back there. So it just didn't make sense to me. Somebody would be back there throwing rocks. But then again, you never know. But never could see nothing. And as we continued on, the rocks kept hitting the water. And I told that boy, I said, "Dude, there's something going on here. Them rocks hitting the water." And I've listened to a lot of podcasts and watched TV shows and stuff. I said, I was, into the Bigfoot subject at this point.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is, and the sticks are starting to crunch back there. So I said, I think there might be a Bigfoot messing with us. And he's just like, rolls his eyes or what, and, it's late into the evening. I'd say it's probably 11:30 or midnight, maybe a little later. I don't remember the exact time, but it was late in the evening. And we're not having no luck catching any fish, but we're still just sitting there waiting for a bite. And the rocks and stuff it's starting to pick up a little more. And I'm like, it's really starting to bug me. I'd shine my light back here several times. And then one time I turned around and I see a light further back in the woods, back here where that trail is. And it just comes floating down the trail. And I was like, what the hell? And I hollered at my buddy. I was like, dude, you see that? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I've seen it. But he's like, I thought it was a car. And I was like, a car? I said, there's just nothing but woods there. I said, there can't be no car back here. But it wasn't putting off any lighter. It was just a glowing ball.
So it wasn't illuminating anything around it like a flashlight. It just was self-illuminated.
Yeah. And it was probably about like the size of a cantaloupe or something like that, best I can remember. A little smaller than a soccer ball or something like that size.
So to your best recollection, how long How long is the pebbles or whatever's being thrown into the water? How long has that been going on now?
Probably, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And any guess to like the frequency that you were hearing something hit the water? Was it, every 5 minutes or every 30 seconds or?
It just kind of about every couple minutes or so.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes maybe a little more and then a little less. But whenever I seen that light coming out there, it just struck me so odd because it's all sand and pebbles up there. Down where we were at, it was all bigger rock and mud. And walking through sand and stuff, if you're holding a flashlight, I mean, there ain't no way you could. It just totally had my mind. I was just really confused because it's just floating down through air, and it's like a bluish white, like.
I was just going to ask you what color.
Like kind of like a LED light, but it it wasn't putting off any light at all, and it wasn't shaking side to side or nothing. I mean, it was just floating and it was going at a good speed. So I mean, if it was a person with a flashlight, I mean, they would have had to been like in a good jog, almost running. And with all the debris and the logs and driftwood and all the other stuff that was back there, I was like, there is no way that's a person with a flashlight. I was like, what the hell is that? And I was like, started to talk to him or something. And then when I looked back, it's like it started over from when I first seen it again. Started way back over there and was coming back down the trail again. I was like, gave me cold chills. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I was like, as a ghost or something. I mean, I didn't know I had no idea at that point, from all seeing the three lights in the sky doing their things they did, and this rock throwing, I'm hearing sticks breaking. And I told this dude, I said, I've heard of this stuff on, Sasquatch Chronicles and stuff with these, and on the confessionals, about these, the balls of light people see sometimes when a Bigfoot's around.
Sure.
And he's like, here you go with the Bigfoot stuff again. And I'm like, dude, I mean, like, there's some weird stuff going on. And then just out of nowhere, man, it's like someone took a big log back there or a big piece of driftwood and just slammed it against the tree, and it just exploded. You could hear all the stuff just go shattering through the bushes and on through the rocks and stuff. And it was loud. I mean, it almost sounded like a shotgun. It was that loud, just that loud bang. And all that stuff went through the woods. And I just looked at him. I said, dude, it's time for us to get our shit and get out of here. And he's like, yeah, let's get out of here. And I was just like, I was really shooken up at that point. And I was like, after that happened, I was like, there's a Bigfoot back there. There's got to be a Bigfoot back there. So I'm like cranking my poles in as fast as I can. We had big weights on them because the river was going, trying to keep our baits down and stuff. Yeah. Struggling to get all that in and get our backpacks and get our pole holders out of the mud and get it all tied back up. And, by the time we're ready to go and got all of our poles, and he's getting ready to head right into the woods the way we came in. I was like, dude, I ain't going that way. And he's like, well, where are we going to go? I said, let's walk down the riverbank all the way around the side. I said, whatever's back there, I'm not going in there with it. And he just kind of like, well, okay, whatever. So we got the heading down the riverbank, and then it turns into nothing but rock out there. And they're all fossil beds. And there's there's a rock wall, and it's got trees and everything growing on top of it. And it's got a whole bunch of woods in there. It goes back to that trail where all sand and pea gravel is. And we get all the way down there to the end of it, and it makes basically like a 90-degree turn. And the wall continues on down. There's a museum down there, and it goes on up to there's a train bridge that goes across the Ohio there into Louisville, into Indiana. And right when we got to that corner, I just kind of like stopped, and I went to look back, and dude, I mean, it roared. The roar that my knees buckled. I almost fell on the ground.
Really?
And it was so loud. I mean, like you feel it through your whole body. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It still gets me kind of shook up when I talk about it. That roar was I don't know, it was amazing and completely terrifying all at the same time. Because I almost went to my knees. I mean, they just kind of just like someone dead-legged you.
Did it sound? Did it sound like it was still way back where you guys had started at where you were fishing, or was it following you? Or?
Yeah, it was right there where we were fishing at. And I forgot to say, whenever we was reeling our poles in, the rocks were coming faster. They were just one after another hitting the water. I left that part out. But when that roar was something else. I've never heard anything like it. And
you've, like, throughout watching YouTube videos or listening to audio captures that people say are vocalizations of these things, you've never run into anything that was remotely close to what you heard?
I haven't heard a roar on any, not that I can remember off any of the other podcasts or hear it on YouTube or anything. But, like the best way I could describe it was just like just a big lion just roaring. It was pretty intense. I've seen the lions at the circus and they make them roar there. I mean, it was like that times 10. It just had, I wanted to just like take off running.
So how close are you at this location to the area that you said you saw the black cat?
It's about 40 miles south.
Oh, so it's not anything that was relatively close.
No. But yeah, I wanted to just take off running, really, but.
And the guy that was with you, what was his demeanor when you guys heard that roar?
I think he just kind of said, like, what the F is that? Or what the hell was that? And I was just like, we got to go, dude. We got to go. And, the terrain's pretty rough down through them rocks down there. If you fall, it's going to hurt bad.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just run. And, as we continued on down through the rock bottom where the rock wall is and all the trees in there, man, it was just like, I just felt like it was right there, but I never did see it. It never did make any more sounds. But, and we made it on down to the far end and got back up to where my truck was parked and, started to head home. And yeah, I told him, I said, dude, I was like, that was a freaking Sasquatch. And he's like, those things don't exist. And I was like, dude, what did you just heard that. I was like, I about fell down. I was like, did you not feel that through your whole body? And he's just like, he just didn't want to talk about it. And to this day, I have still not talked to him since that night.
Really?
yeah, it's about a 35, 40-mile drive home. Wouldn't talk about it at all. So I finally just gave up. We was coming up the interstate, and we got here, and I got our poles and stuff out of the back of my truck, and he put his stuff in his van, and that's the last I seen of him. And he bugged me all the time, wanting to go fishing, pretty much every weekend.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably, that roar was probably one of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my whole life. And I'll be 37 in November.
Yeah, I'd say that would have, I probably would have been wishing I'd been wearing a pair of brown pants in that.
I can't believe I didn't.
Maybe you started to notice that your pumpkin patch is a little bit overgrown. There's no better time than now to head over to manscaped.com and use the promo code uncomfortable22 for 20% off and free shipping. Help support Uncomfortable Podcast by heading over to manscaped.com and picking up any of their fine products. Join over 6 million men worldwide using Manscaped products. Pick up the Lawnmower 4.0 as a part of the Performance Package. The package also includes the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, both with proprietary skin-safe technology that all but eliminates nicks and scrapes, pulls, and tugs. Their Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Ball Toning Spray, and 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag and a pair of Manscaped Premium Stretch Boxers. Help support Uncomfortable Podcast with the code uncomfortable22 at manscaped.com and get 20% off your order and free shipping worldwide. That's 20% off with worldwide free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code uncomfortable22, all uppercase. Unlock your confidence, and as always, use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
It was, it's once I can tell the story just fine until I get up to that point where that roar happened, man, and I get all chattered up and can't hardly talk right.
So have you ever used any of the BFRO website or Bigfoot Mapping Project or anything to look at reports from the area that you were in to see if there was anything that had ever been reported? Or
No, I've never really got on BFRO. I've always heard kind of negative things about them. I don't know. I guess if you try to reach out and report it or something, or I don't really know.
Well, there are a lot of rumors that, and I'm not even going to get into it, but you can use their website just to look up locales and find out if there were any, have been any sightings throughout history in that area. And the Bigfoot Mapping Project does a very similar service as well.
Well, I had heard on Sasquatch Chronicles, one of his earlier episodes, there was somebody, and they were describing another spot down the river about a mile from there.
Oh, from that same place?
Yeah, there's a smaller river that comes out, and it comes out into the Ohio there. And we like to fish at there in the wintertime, and never had any experiences down there. I fished it many a times and caught some really big fish down there. But that story went into where someone had seen it running through the woods, and I guess it would have been probably summertime or something, because the water would have been down. But where it had went down them banks, and them banks are pretty much straight up and down when the water's down, and they're mud, and it went down in that and crossed the creek and went right up the other side. And if a person did that, it'd be a hell of a job to get down in it and then back up it. There ain't no way you could just run down it and run back up the other side.
Yeah.
And there's big big giant footprints, or not like footprints, but just big holes in the mud where it had tracked through it. But pretty sure the person said they called it Blackie. There's just like it was a big black man down there, but it was.
Wow.
I don't know. It was an interesting story. I have to go back and listen to it again. It's been a long time. Probably hard to find it, but
Interesting that it's in the just within a couple of miles of where you were at, though.
yeah, because I mean, me and my buddy, we've been listening to Wes for a long time. You know, like I told you, you know, I tried to reach out to him over a year ago and just never heard nothing back. But you know, I didn't get into any big detail in the email, if it even went through to him, right? But anyways, yeah, we thought that was, you know, because my buddy, you know, once we heard it, he was like, dude, that's one of our fishing spots. But, you know, we'd never experienced anything down there, never really looked for anything related to it down there, like, you know, tree breaks or anything like that. But yeah, the woods there, I mean, it's not very wide. It just runs down the side of the river. I mean, they're probably not even 100 yards wide in a lot of places, all the way down the bank of the river until you get on down past New Albany, and then it gets into big hills over there, and it's all big forest over there. I was looking at it on Google Maps just the other day, and so maybe they come down through there occasionally or something. I don't know. But that was a really weird experience with seeing the UFOs and the weird orb light in the woods.
Is there any chance that those lights that you were seeing in the sky, could your perception of them been kind of skewed, and could they have been much closer than what you thought, and possibly the size of the same light you saw in the woods? It was just an optical illusion that you were thinking that they were further away?
No, they were like just bright white, just like white light.
Oh, so they didn't look the same.
Yeah, like they were like twinkling, almost like they was almost like emitting light off of them. And the one I seen in the woods just looked like a glowing ball. It didn't have no beams of light coming off of it or nothing, you know, coming out in the front like you would a flashlight. Yeah. I've never seen a ball of light like that before, ever. Yeah. I've seen some weird stuff in the skies over the years too, and never seen anything like the orb in the woods.
You know, I've talked to a woman from southern Indiana. I want to say maybe Evansville.
Right.
And she's claiming to see things in the sky like almost daily.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't look up enough. But I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. You know, I've seen stuff for years. My dad was always a believer in it, and you know, I just, you know, I always thought it, you know, was, you know, the government was, you know, Men in Black and all that stuff, and then now the government's like, yeah, there's stuff out there. We don't know what it is. We're trying to pursue it. You know, see what's going on. And it's like, I mean, what are they going to? You just never know. Things are crazy.
Yeah, I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact that they don't know. I think they know considerably more than what they're leading us to believe. But
oh yeah, you can get into all them conspiracy theories and all them other people's stories and stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think they may know. I don't know. You know, maybe sometimes. I mean, when you take a good hard look at the way our government acts or does things, especially recently, it makes one think maybe we give them more credit than they deserve.
Oh, definitely.
You know, maybe they don't know what's going on. Maybe they have an idea but they don't know the truth of the matter in some of these things, and they're just as equally dumbfounded as we are.
Well, I think they could, they probably know of some of them, but maybe some of these, like the little tic tac thing or whatever that's flying around, the speed of light or however they was describing it. They may not know what those things are, but yeah, I think they're in a little deeper with other things, maybe other beings.
Yeah.
They're just kind of trying to ease it out to us now. And yeah, there's something out there, even though we, used to lock you all up and put you in the loony bin for saying you seen a UFO. But, there's something out there now.
So you sent some pictures at one point of some pretty strange looking, anomalous looking tree bends and archways and stuff like that. So I assume you've taken up, heading out into these areas and looking for a sign of these things. Yeah, well,
we're curious, me and my buddy, because the lake, I sent you a satellite view of the lake that we fish at down there. And the whole reason I started fishing at this lake again is because the incident that happened down at the river, because I was pretty spooked by it.
So you were using the lake as a replacement for the fishing spot at the river? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I used to fish this lake a lot back when we were, younger adults. And, we'd catch, decent fish, nothing to brag about, but, just have a good old time out there and sit under the stars and get away from everything. It's quiet, middle of nowhere. And, some really interesting things started to happen out there.
Like what?
Because, I can't remember exactly how it all started out. I'll just go into the main story of it, and I'll just put all the other stuff in. Me and my buddy had went down there. This before I got the picture of the arch tree, but we went down there to go catfishing one night. We was just gonna go catch some channel cats, and this was last fall, about this time last year. And for whatever reason, we got a late start, and it was already pretty much dark by the time we was on our way. But it's only it's less than 10 miles from my house. I ain't ever tripped my mileage on my car or nothing to check. But as we got closer down there, and it was dark when we got down there, and I'm come pulling in the road, and my buddy, he's like, dude, I just seen red eyes in the woods. And I was like, what? And I looked, I didn't see nothing, because we were going probably 30 mile an hour, because they got little speed bumps down through there. And I was like, I didn't see it, and he's just act like I didn't believe him, and he kind of got aggravated at me a little bit. I was like, when you see something, you want somebody else that's with you to see it.
Right.
He was just kind of like, man, can't believe you didn't see it. I was like, yeah, well, that's kind of weird. I believed him. Any of my close friends or something, they tell me something like that. I believe them. And we started getting our poles and stuff out and lock the car up and head around the bend and go all the way down the dam. And we were the only people there. And so, that's great. It's the best time when there ain't nobody else there. It's a pretty good sized lake too. So we head on down the lake there. We're down on the dam, and we get our poles set up, stuff. We're sitting around just, shooting the crap. And I don't know what the reason was, just to shine our light around or whatever. One of us did. I can't remember. I think it was my buddy. he shined the light down there first. We had some pretty good spotlights. And there it was, man, right beside a tree. It's probably 100, 150 yards away from us, just staring straight at us with orangish red eyes.
You're seeing the silhouette.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very big creature.
Jesus.
And
how far away?
It's probably 100 to 150 yards or so. And we just, I don't know, my buddy, he was kind of just like, you know, we were just kind of freaked out at that. You know, like, holy shit, there's a Bigfoot right there. And man, it was wild. Just seeing it standing there, and I mean, its eyes, they had to be like almost as big as tennis balls. And the way they were spread apart and stuff. And I was like, as big as that is, like, I mean, really, like, the only other thing I could compare it to was like a bull or like a big horse or something like that. But they weren't quite that far apart. But I was like, I mean, that's the only other animal I could think of. But I mean, we've been out spotlighting for deer and stuff all growing up. I've never spotlighted anything that had like orange red eyes.
So when the light hit it, were they reacting like typical eye shine, or did they look like they were self-illuminated?
Yeah, it was eye shine. They weren't. You take the light off of it, and you couldn't see nothing but darkness over there. You put the light back on it, he's right there. Yeah. And it never did like squint its eyes, or it never did put its hand up to block the light or nothing. I mean, we got some pretty high-powered spotlights, and one of my spotlights, it's on a headlamp. I'm a miner, and I mean, it shoots a hell of a beam of light, and it's just a small, tight pattern. It don't light up a big area, and it's super bright, and it's LED, and we were shining it, and it's just, you know, it just blew our minds. You know, we're just sitting there, and we had caught a handful of fish, and you know, we just catch them and let them back go. You know, we catch a big enough when we take a picture with it, but it was just standing down there staring at us, and you know, we're just kind of like,
was it like completely out in the open, or, you know, half behind a tree, or
there's a big tree there, and I mean, the way it looked, it was just standing beside the tree out in the open.
Wow.
The best that I can remember. And every time when we'd shine it with the light, and it acted like it didn't care. But when we were far enough away from it, you couldn't really see much details other than it was just the big human-like shape. And I mean, and when we were sitting there looking, it's like, man, that is humongous. I mean, huge. And we continue on just doing our thing there, you know, shining back there. I mean, he never moved. He stayed right there. And then I can't remember if a Jeep came down first or if it was a pickup truck. Well, anyway, here comes a car just flying down the road. They come down there and they back in to the boat ramp. And they start getting their poles and stuff out, and they're making all kinds of racket over there. And, you know, they'd probably been drinking or something, because, you know, who shows up down at the lake at midnight or something to go catfishing, or, you know, super late like that.
Yeah.
Because we had been there for quite a while, and we shine the light back up there, it's gone. And it's like, huh. You know, me and my buddies just kind of, I don't really remember our conversation very well, but it's like, wonder where the hell he went. Because he'd been there for, you know, quite a long time.
Can you give me an idea how long you think you guys were standing there looking at him?
Probably an hour or so. He just stayed in the same spot.
Holy crap. Really?
Yeah, just never moved. until that car come through. We weren't going to shine our lights up there when the car come through, because they're bright and don't want to, end up getting in a fight with somebody for shining a light at them.
So,
but,
like for an hour, you guys were actively just shining the light at it and watching it, or you were going about doing your thing and you just kept looking back every now and again?
Yeah, we just kept looking back every now and again, and still
how in the hell
trying to do.
How in the hell did you maintain your composure to not want to just get out of there?
I think the distance between us, kind of, because it's a dam. We was down in the lower part of the dam. We had that grass hill behind us. And then on the other side of it, it just shoots straight down for a pretty good long ways down to a cornfield down in the bottom. And we would walk up on the top of the dam and still be shining a light on him. And he would, it was moving a little bit, but it wasn't like moving anything like jumping around or trying to hide behind a tree or nothing but we kept, shining down in that bottom down there, making sure there wasn't nothing down there. So we never seen anything closer to us. But as that first vehicle come in and they started setting their stuff up and they were being loud and he was gone. And they're setting their poles up and stuff, and just out of nowhere, dude, they just start just scurrying around, getting all their stuff, throwing it back in the car. They fire the car up and they just barrel ass it out of there. It's like, holy shit. I was like, told my buddy, I was like, this thing it had to have been messing with them. Who does that? We were confused by it.
They didn't yell at you guys or say, hey, get the hell out of here, there's something weird's going on? They just...
No, they're probably a good 100 yards or so away from us.
Okay.
I never heard them yell or scream, never heard the creature make any noise. But, they got out of there in a panic.
Huh.
And I'm pretty sure that, there was there was 2 or 3 people in the vehicle. Couldn't really see them. It was pitch black out there. We didn't have no moon. I don't even know if the stars were, I don't remember that part, but, and we were just like sitting there, kind of talking about it. They're gone. And you can still hear them going off down the distance. They were hauling ass. And we shine the light back up there, and he's back, looking straight at us.
Back in the same spot.
Yep, right in the same spot. Just bright eyes. His eyes wide open. Never did squint him a bit. And I was just like, dude, this is so weird. I was like, that's a freaking Sasquatch, and both of them were like, we know. He's like, I told you, I seen the red eyes when we came in. I was like, I believe, we were like almost yelling at each other, kind of arguing.
I even forgot that he had seen the red eyes on the way in.
Yeah, my headlights had hit him when we came in. I don't know if he was down in a little ravine down in there or what it was. And he's like, I told you, I seen them eyes. And I was like, well, I believed you beforehand, but I was like, I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing now. So, yeah, you seen red eyes when we pulled in there. And it's back there again. So, we're still sitting there fishing. We're not done fishing because we're still catching fish. Through all this is going on, we're still catching, some pretty decent channel cats. And, it was a good night for fishing. And
so
it just stays there the whole time watching us. And, probably another hour goes by, we, periodically shine back here, we're paranoid. Not knowing, if something coming over the hill, we go up there and shine down there and stuff. Never did see nothing. There's usually deer down there in the bottom. You can shine them every time, but there weren't no deer out there. But he just stayed right there watching us. And later on, it'd probably been like another hour or so. I can't remember exactly. I'm not 100% sure on my times here.
Yeah.
But here comes another vehicle, and they come down and do the same thing. They get on the boat ramp, back their car down in there, And I don't know if they were getting fishing poles out or not. I mean, they probably was. And they were setting up or they were doing something over there. We shine our lights there and he's gone again. And the same thing just repeats itself again. They scurry around, making a bunch of noise, get in their car and get the hell out of there.
I got to ask you, how are you maintaining your cool? You know, I mean, you heard one roar at the river and your legs wanted to go out from underneath you. Now you're physically seeing something that is the physical embodiment of what you thought was going on at the river. How are you not just freaking the hell out and wanting to get out of there?
I don't know. I just think maybe just because my best bud's right there, right with me. And it wasn't acting aggressive or, you know, banging stuff around or yelling. I never made a sound. It just stood there and watched us. I mean, it was kind of like, I don't know, we were just kind of like in awe.
So, like, all told, how long would you say that you were able to continue to look back and see it there? Like, for a total, with between all the cars that came down there and everything, what would you say that your window of opportunity to look back and see this thing was? Over an hour, 2 hours?
When the whole time we was there through all of it, we were there for 5 hours. My buddy, he's like, dude, we got here at this time and we left here at this time. But when that second car took off and stuff, you know, we hadn't caught a fish for a little while. It was pretty much dying down. We didn't have a whole lot of bait left. And that's when we kind of come to the part, that's when we started getting scared, because we got to pack our stuff up and walk straight towards it back to our car.
Oh.
Yeah, we were
did
both.
Did that never occur to you during the time you were?
I really don't think so. Because we were just so shocked by seeing the thing. And man, it was.
I think I would have waited for daylight.
Well, it's when we actually started, we reeled all of our stuff up. He was still there after that car left. He came back again and was there again. And we started packing all of our stuff up, and we started heading to the car, and he was gone. And we was extremely nervous and scared.
Now, did you literally have to walk right past where it had been standing?
When you got to the end of the dam, where it kind of made the corner over towards where the parking lot is, there's a little field in the bottom, and it goes to the parking lot. When you get to the end of that dam, it kind of makes the corner there. He was straight up on the top, straight across from that corner, up just a little ways. So, I mean, we'd have probably been within 40 yards or so away from him, but you never did see him again.
I don't imagine you walked over that way to see if you could see any footprints or anything.
No. We did go back a couple of days later in the daytime and look around that tree. It was all beat down, the ground was, but couldn't really see anything, no indentions or anything, which it was pretty dry, I guess, at that time.
So it looked trampled down, but no prints.
Yeah, it was beat down like a trail almost. But I mean, there was still leaf litter and stuff there, but it was all just packed down pretty good. And
wow.
Yeah, but we made it to the car and we pulled around. You know, I turned around real slow. I mean, we were, you know, from experiences I had before, I mean, and other stories I heard, I mean, I'm just like waiting for a big tree to come down and block the road. I mean, we was both kind of panicked at that point. You know, we rarely carry firearms on us. Usually if we do, we're down at the river where there's homeless people and stuff down there and stuff. But up here, you ain't really got nothing to worry about. And man, it was something else. My buddy, he usually brings his 9mm now. Not that that would do anything, but just in case, at least make some noise as you run to the car. But yeah, I don't remember if that's the first experience there at the lake or at this, but that was a pretty wild thing that happened there.
Did you happen to ever go like back to that tree and try to gauge, what you remember as far as, height wise or, maybe the width of the shoulders or anything like that?
Well, the way we were kind of looking at it and the way we stood there, I mean, it had to be at least 2 foot taller than us, maybe a little bit taller. And I'm like 5'10", and my buddy's probably right at 6 foot. And it was pretty big, wide. I mean, it was, I don't know, probably the biggest animal I've ever seen.
Yeah. No sounds, wasn't rocking back and forth, wasn't peeking from behind the tree, just stood there motionless for upwards of an hour.
I mean, it did move around a little bit, like when we were shining the light on it and stuff, but it wasn't like, like people say, swaying back and forth, like it's aggravated. It just stood there, just wide-eyed, looking at us. And pretty bizarre. I mean, and if it was running off these other people, which we think that's what, I mean, really seems like that's what happened. He was running those people off. And it never hollered or nothing. We got our stuff in the car. We were both, taking turns shining all around us, see if this thing's coming at us to,
What's your
end
thoughts?
us.
What's your thoughts? Why do you think it ran off the others, but was perfectly content with just sitting and observing you?
Maybe because there was such a distance between us. Maybe, I don't know. Because I mean, we were just doing our thing. We're just talking normally. We weren't drinking or nothing, being loud and stupid. We just, we don't ever drink when we fish. We just go out there and have a good time. And I don't know, couldn't really understand why it just stood there and watched us. Maybe it was just watching us pull them fish in and it was intrigued by it or something. I have no idea.
That's crazy.
But on another occasion, my buddy I was talking about, him and his oldest son, the one that I pushed down at the lake at one time trying to get away when the rock hit the water, he's probably, I think he's 19 now, 19 or 20. But him and his dad went down there and they were fishing just to see what was going on. And he kind of poked fun at me a little bit. He believed in the stuff, but I think this did happen before. It happened before we seen it that time, because they were down there and we'd walk around looking for tree breaks and stuff. But when him and his boy was down there, they had set a couple fishing poles up, and when they were fishing, he always just kind of like mocked them in a way, just kind of, he'd go, "Hoo," make a big stupid sound. Well, straight across on the other side of the lake, something just went ape shit over there. And he said it sounded like an elephant just coming through the woods on the other side of the lake. And he said before they knew, I mean, they were pretty shocked by it. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And it's right around back behind them in a matter of, there's no way a person could get through the woods that quick. And just out of nowhere, they hear the sound of like a helicopter blade, like just, here come a big old stick, and it landed right behind them.
Oh, really?
And they got their poles in real quick and threw them in the car, and they got out of there.
No kidding.
And there was another time I was talking, me and a buddy was taking a boat out there, a different buddy. And he had launched a boat, and I was sitting there holding the boat while he was parking the truck and the trailer. And it just happened to be free fishing day. And there was more people down there than I've ever seen in my life. And I was standing there, and there's an older feller there. I knew him because I did a lot of coon hunting with him, with my wife's father and grandfather. He's a pretty well-known man around here for the job he does. But I was like, "What's going on, man?" And he's like, "Oh, not a whole lot." He's like, all these other people were pitching tents and all kinds of stuff out there. And he's like, "Man," he's like, "I can't believe all these people are going to camp out here." He's like, "I guess they don't have no idea there's Bigfoots out here." I was like, "Oh yeah." I was kind of just shocked to hear it from him.
Yeah.
He's an old redneck type. He's probably close to 60 years old. I mean, he's a good old boy too. I was like, "Huh." I was like, "You seen some Bigfoots down here?" He's like, "Man," he's like, "Me and my wife come down here on my side-by-side, and we just going to come down here and piddle around and, fish for bluegill here off the boat ramp." He said, "We pulled up and shut it off, started getting our poles out." And he said, straight across the lake over there on that hillside, he's like, "Something's over there just stomping and shaking and ripping up trees." And he said it started throwing stuff out in the water and screaming. And he's like, "We just kind of stood there for, 30 seconds or a minute, and there's like, they just got back in their side-by-side, just got out there." He's like, "Man, there's fucking Bigfoot down here." I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I made it this far.
You're doing good.
And I was like, "Man, you ain't gonna get no judgment from me, man." I said, "I know they're down here." He's like, "Man, he's like, I'm telling you, these people are crazy out here putting all their tents up and stuff." And, and here come my other buddy down, getting in the boat, and my buddy in the boat, he's pretty skeptic of it, but he's like, "Well, I mean, I could, see it being out there, but who knows?" He ain't ever had nothing, no experience or nothing.
Yeah.
And there was another time, me and my buddy and his son, the one that had the stick thrown behind him, and a girlfriend he was dating at the time, we was gonna go look for signs of them. So we went all the way down the dam where we were fishing at one time, and there's a trail that goes all the way around the whole entire lake. And then there's other trails that you can go forever on them. And we got on down past the dam, and we were getting ready to go in the woods, and we found a tent. And it was like a brand new tent, big one, orange. And I was like, "Man, it just smashed." And we started looking at it, and we was leery at first because my buddy's son started trying to get into it. I was like, "Dude, there might be something in there you don't want to see." You never know. I mean,
sure, yeah.
There's been, bodies found all over the place around here, over the years. People get into doing murders and stuff. But anyways, I was like, "Well, I mean, it's hot. You'd obviously smell something." But, and we got to poking around there, and the bars on it, the big tent bars that go through it, they're all broke. It's like, man, and it's just stomped down flat. And there's just blankets inside of there and some clothes. It's like, huh. And there's a tackle box back beside it there. So we opened it up and looked at it, and then there were some lures and some hooks and stuff in there, and there's the people's fishing license in there. I was like, "What the?" And then me and my buddy's like, "Dude, these people got ran off, and it destroyed their tent." I mean, that's what we're guessing.
Yeah.
I mean, who leaves their tackle box behind with their information in it?
Right.
And a tent it looked brand new, just smashed like someone drove a monster truck over top of it.
And this is in the same area.
The same lake, yeah. And since then, this spring, they put up a big check-in station down there where you're supposed to get a little card out of there and keep it with you the whole time you're there, and write about your experience there at the lake, what you're doing, fishing, hiking, camping, whatever. And I just thought that was really odd they put that in there. So one day I grabbed one of them papers and I wrote down a quick little message about the experiences with the Sasquatches there, and put it in their box for the DNR.
Did you really?
But yeah, I just thought it was funny. But it's like, they're out here, man. You should probably put up signs to warn people. But they ain't put no signs up yet. But they got another sign. They did put a sign up going into the main trail that goes around the whole lake. It says right on the sign, it says, if you need to check in, it's got the little barcode, little square little thing on there. You can scan it with your phone or something, I guess.
Yeah.
And it says, check in is optional, but if you're staying overnight, you're required to check in on their website to let them know what you're doing there, if you're camping overnight or whatever. I thought that was kind of weird. But
interesting.
And we was down there about a month or so ago. Me and my buddy, we was just down there sitting, and we threw some lines out there just to sit and listen. And there was a couple Amish boys down there, and they were just doing their own little thing. They didn't get close to us, but we was sitting there, and we was getting weirded out, just getting a weird feeling. And something came out of the woods and went way over on the other side of you could hear it. Pretty sure it was a stick. And it splashed in the water over there. And a whole bunch of birds come flying out of the woods. And that was just about all that happened there. There was another time too, we hiked back around the backside of that, and that's when we found that big arch that I sent you a picture of.
Yeah.
And that big log, it's got it pinned down.
Mm.
That's a big log. I mean,
yeah, it
it's pretty
like
big.
In the picture, yeah.
It's probably, I don't know, it's probably over 20 inches, round, when it was a real a live tree. But it had been on the ground for a long time. All the bark was gone off of it. It's deteriorating. It's just, it's falling apart. And that tree, it's bent over, it's a pretty good sized tree. If you look at it where the trunk comes out of the ground and comes up, I mean, it's a decent sized tree. And I don't know how the hell anybody would be able to bend that over and pick up that tree, that dead rotten tree, and set it on top of the top of it where it's kept bent over.
Right. Yeah, that's unusual.
You would have to have machinery. You could put 20 men back here, and I don't think you could probably pick it up without it breaking. I mean, I don't know. It was, I thought it was pretty interesting. And, I told you we'd found a few other tree breaks around the backside back in there, but I never did take pictures of them like a dummy. But usually when we go out there, just try to have a good time and enjoy it. But when I seen that arch, I was like, dude, I got to get a picture of this. This is really bizarre. Didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, that's a very, very distinct looking arch. That is like borderline perfect.
Well, and it still had green leaves on it and everything. And there's a couple other smaller little trees. It's kind of hard to see in that picture. I got other pictures of it I could send to you, but they're not really that great. but there's a couple other smaller sapling trees right there with that tree that are actually snapped off. They're just broke.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're probably, you know, big around as a golf ball or maybe a little bigger, give or take. And they're mangled up. And then the big trees pulled over in the arch with the rotten log on top of it. Yeah, it was, I don't know, probably one of the most interesting things I've ever seen in the woods like that.
Never found any tracks or anything in that area?
No, we looked around. It was pretty dry when we found that the leaves weren't kicked up, or, I mean, it just looked like the woods. My buddies found some like little like hill, like the hill of a foot, some other things like that, but nothing real big or anything like that. And there's a lot of Amish kids that run around back there too. You know, they run around barefooted, but we found some other, like some spots where like moss on rotten smaller logs laying down in the bottoms down there. Like, it looked like something anything could have kicked it off, but it was a pretty good sized piece of moss like kicked off of it, or where it stepped on and, you know, it rolled off.
Yeah.
It was just kind of odd, but yeah, we was actually going to go down there last Saturday, and we just ended up not going. I don't really know. I think we've been working so much here lately, working 6 days a week and stuff. Kind of hard to get out there sometimes. Get lazy.
So is that pretty much it as far as the Bigfoot stuff?
Well, I had the stuff go on here at the house too.
Oh, yeah, let's get into that.
Well, it all kind of started out with sometimes when I'd be asleep, and I just hear a boom, and it just wake me up. I'm like, what the hell? You know, just startled, woke up, and I just kind of always thought of it as, you know, maybe some of these rednecks around here, you know, partying and shooting tannerite. If you know what that is.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes a hell of a loud boom. And there's people around here that shoot it. You know, I haven't heard any recently, or in quite a long time, really, but they used to in the daytime. But this would be late, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just, you know, it scared the hell out of me. And then I just go back to sleep. Well, my wife, she was working at a department store, clothing store, and she had to close the store a lot of nights, so she didn't get off work till 11:30 or somewhere late. And I just couldn't sleep. I was waiting on her to get home. And I know it was around 11 o'clock or so, something like that. And I was out here on the porch smoking a cigarette. And I didn't have any lights out here or nothing. It was just pitch black. All you had was stars. And you could turn the porch lights on, but I never turned them on because I like to see the stars. And I was just sitting out there smoking a cigarette, looking around. And at the corner of my property where the driveway is, I heard something that just got my attention, and I looked that way, and something come running across from the woods on the other side of the road, straight down the side of my property. And I mean, it was getting it. Just a black shadow look. I don't know, it was just a black thing, and it just come hauling ass through there. I mean, so fast. I was like, the first thing that popped in my head, I was like, man, that deer was hauling ass. And I got an old red bone coon dog, and she's back there chained up in the back of the property back here. She got a big long run cable, and she runs around, barks at everything, just boo, boo. Yeah. If you ever hear hound dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, she drive you nuts at times. And I was just smoking my cigarette. I thought it was a deer. I mean, it just, the logical thing, it just went in my head.
Was it because it was low? Was it low to the ground? You know, like.
No, I mean, I guess it would have been like, I guess maybe as tall as a big deer. Or, I don't know. It was just a black figure. It went so fast. I mean, it was fast, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, probably just as fast as a deer would be going as fast as it could go. It was probably faster. And I was just like, I was waiting for Fern, our dog, to just start raising hell back here. And I'm sitting there, nothing's happening. I was like, I was like, what was it? And man, the next thing, I'm standing there and I still got like a half a cigarette, and I start hearing noise on my shingles of my house. And it sounds like claws, like scratching into the shingles, just that scratchy sound.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what the hell? And it's like, kind of like start to turn around. I was like, the hell with this. I just threw my cigarette and I ran in the house. And I was like, no, I don't know what that was. So I'm just like, I go in the living room and I'm just like sitting there, and I have the curtains pulled open. I'm waiting for my wife to, it's going to be a while before she gets here. So I'm just like messing around. I never did hear any other steps. I couldn't hear anything from the inside of the house. And I just waited around for her to get home. And finally, when I seen her come by, I came outside and I started telling her what was going on. She's like, oh, it's probably them little birds that are out here that like to hop around out on the roof and stuff. And I was like, it's in the middle of the night, hon. It's like those little birds are like daytime birds. I was like, I don't know what it was, but it sounded like it was pretty good size. It was making a lot of scratchy noises. I don't know. It scared me, and I ran the house.
You think something was on the roof, or you think maybe something was tall enough that it had its hand up on the edge of the shingles?
Well, where I was at, it would have had to have been on top of the house, because I got a double wide, modular home.
Uh-huh.
And for me piecing it together, I mean, it would have had to come from the backside and climbed up on my little shed and then got onto the roof, which probably wouldn't be that hard for something like that. But, and I don't know what it was. I really don't. But I mean, I thought it was weird. And then it'd probably been like 2 weeks later or so, but I'd still hear them loud bangs while I'd be sleeping. And the more I thought about it, and I heard somebody like talking about like your people have brain pops or whatever, like you just have a pop inside your brain. I heard Tony talk about it one time on Confessionals, that he has them. Like he'll just be asleep and he'll just hear a boom in his head or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that. Maybe it was, I've never heard of that before until I heard Tony talking about it. But I was thinking maybe something was actually slapping the back of the house. And when I got to that point is because my wife, she was over at the neighbors. So we've been friends with the neighbors since we was in high school. And she'll go over and have a couple mixed drinks with the neighbor lady if she don't have to work the next day. And then she'll come home, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. I'm already in bed because I get up at, 4:30 in the morning. I ain't got time to fool around waiting up for her. And she come in and, she was scared and she woke me up. And I was like, what? I was kind of like, she's like, when I was walking back from the neighbors, she's like, I heard it sounded like somebody just come up running past me. And she's like, you just heard it. It's just like thump, 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 thump. Just, it got louder and it came right past me. And she's like, and I got on the other end of my house, I've got plug-ins over there, and I got a big deep freezer I keep out there. And I keep all my bait for catfishing in. And we built a little small porch there, and it's on the other side of the porch. And she said, whatever it was, I know it's right there hiding behind your freezer. She's like, I could hear it making noise. And she's like, I just ran in up the porch and got in the house as quick as I could. And she's like, you should go out there and see. I was like, I am not getting out of bed and going to see. No, I'm good. I was like, you made it in the house.
I'm seeing a pattern here with knocking the kid out of the way.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go, no. I was like, it didn't try to attack you or whatever it was. No, but she's like, it ran past me and it scared the hell out of me. And I'm like, no, I'm not going out there. And I don't remember what time it was, but it was late. And she really wanted me to go out there, but I mean, I didn't really feel like, getting the hell scared out of me. So, and, the more I thought about it, she was talking about the foot, where the feet were hitting the ground when it come running past her. And, like if me or you come running past somebody in the dark, I mean, you would hear them, but you wouldn't hear like the
yeah,
like that. I thought that was really bizarre. And that's the point. That's when I told her, I was like, you know what, this place is too dark out here. We're going to light this place up. So I got the REMC, put me a big LED light out front out here on my pole. The whole front yard's lit up. I mean, it's bright. And, I mean, you don't need no light or nothing. You can walk around out here like it's nothing, like it's daytime. And I've got a light out here in the park and the driveway. I haven't got the back side of the house lit up yet, but pretty much everything here at the house is stopped. But my buddy, he said he's seen something moving through the woods on the other side of the road one time. This was like a couple weeks ago. He's like, he could have swore he seen something move through an opening over there. But I don't know. I'm not going over there. It's not my property. And I told you about going over to talking to the Amish boy next door too.
Yes.
Lives across the street from me, and I hear there's wolves. It sounds like wolves howling back over there. And I asked him what he was doing some work for the old neighbor lady that borders my property, and I was talking to him, and I was like, well, what do you think about them wolves? You hear them wolves howling over there? I told you that I looked it up, and it said like back in the 60s or like 64 or something like that they had released gray wolves into southern Indiana. Uh-huh. And I was like, holy hell, I never knew that. But who knows? I mean, I've lived here my whole life and never heard a wolf howl. I've never seen one. Not saying they're not here, I don't guess, because they say they released them.
Right.
But that's what I asked the old boy next door there. I said, what do you think about those? He said, well, I don't know if those are wolves or not. I said, well, that's what they sound like to me. And he's like, I just don't know. And he said,
what did he think they were?
He really wouldn't go into really saying much about them other than he just didn't know what they were. But he said something did have my horses spooked up real bad here, back when I was talking to him. It was last year, I think. And he's like, I was shining my lights back here and stuff, and he's like, I don't know what it was. My horses were acting like I'd never seen them act before. And I don't know, probably a few weeks later into the springtime there, I went over and asked him, I said, hey, do you care if we go back here and mushroom hunt, look for morel mushrooms? And he said, yeah, I don't care. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So we used to hunt that whenever I was a kid. Me and my dad used to go over there, and me and my buddy went back there, and, he brought I can't remember if he had a 45 or if he just brought a 9mm, just in case, because we were more interested in seeing if we could find the wolves back here, because they howl back here like every day. And we got back here, and there was a small creek down there, and like I told you, I didn't take a picture of it like a big dummy, but there was a footprint we didn't measure it or anything, but I put my water bottle at the heel of it, and you could have put another water bottle in front of it and it wouldn't have been out of the track. And it was probably 8 inches wide or so. Wasn't like super wide, but it was pretty damn long.
Yeah.
And
back,
it, you know, it was
there at the back of his property.
Yeah, it was pretty far back in his property, but it was sunk down in the ground probably a good 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches.
Just one print?
Yep, just one. Right as it was coming up out of the creek on the side of the bank there. I mean, it wasn't like a real steep bank, but it was, yeah, it was pretty interesting. And we kind of got creeped out at that point, seen that, and it's like, yeah, we're probably just head on back.
And that's just directly across the street from you.
Yeah.
That's a little too close to home for me.
Yeah, that's like I said. I put them lights up because I experienced all this other stuff, and then stuff started happening around here too. You know, I got the light idea from Wes. He always says light the place up. Put cameras up. I ain't put no cameras up, but yeah. I got the lights, and it seemed to it cut it out.
It does seem to be pretty common with reports from people that once they start having activity around the house, once they put lights and or cameras, it does tend to subside.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that it's kind of slowed down with all that here. Like I told you, I've got my daughters. I'm open with them. I let them know how, I don't sugarcoat nothing. I tell them, I 100% believe they exist. I've seen one. I tell them, they're real. I was like, you guys play and have fun out here, but, just know.
Keep your wits about you.
There could be something out there. If you ever feel like you're getting creeped out, something like that, or you start hearing some weird noises or tree limbs breaking or something, it's like, just head on back to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably about most of it.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing that with us.
Yeah, that's no problem. I love hearing all these other people's stories. I've had these experiences happen over the years, and the more crazier stuff happened here, in the past, 2 years or so.
Yeah, fairly recent.
And, they're pretty spooky. I've heard some way worse ones.
Yeah.
But
for sure,
I love listening to them, and and I believe all those people too. I've seen it. My buddy's seen it. They're real, man. They're out there.
Even if only one person is telling the truth, that means there's something out there. So
yeah,
I think there's way more people out there than just one person telling the truth.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate your time, man. I really do. You'll have to keep me abreast of any new stuff if it happens around there.
Definitely. We'll let you know for sure.
Not at the house.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well, we'll see you, man. Have a good one.
Thank you. Good night.
With Tim Hortons 2 hot breakfast sandwiches for $6 deal, you can mix and match your favorites. Mix and match between savory sausage or naturally hickory smoked bacon. Mix and match between an English muffin or flaky biscuit. Any two served with a freshly cracked egg and melted cheese. You can even mix and match how you share it. One for you, one for them, 2 for them, or 2 just for you. There's no wrong way to mix and match this tasty deal. 2 breakfast sandwiches for just $6. It's time for Tim's. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Single item at regular price. Modifications and tax extra. Additional terms apply.